Remember those budget meals from old cookbooks? The ones that stretched every dollar without feeling like it. They fed whole families with leftovers, love, and a little kitchen magic. Tuna noodle casserole. If you grew up in the 1950s or 1960s, tuna noodle casserole was probably a familiar face at the dinner table. This simple, satisfying dish was a staple of mid-century American cooking, beloved for its ease, affordability, and ability to stretch a can of tuna into a hearty meal. Back then, canned goods were a kitchen lifeline.
Noodle casserole. That's right. I'm going to show you how to make what I consider.
And this casserole made the most of inexpensive pantry staples to create a filling, family-friendly meal. The key ingredients were humble: canned tuna, egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, peas, and a crunchy breadcrumb topping. While today's meals might focus on fresh, local ingredients, tuna noodle casserole was all about making the most out of what you had on hand and what was available at the grocery store. Tuna was an affordable protein that could easily be stockpiled, and the combination of pasta and creamy soup provided the kind of comforting dish that made families feel full and satisfied on a budget. Canned peas were often thrown in, giving the dish a pop of color and a touch of sweetness. The soup, usually cream of mushroom, acted as the creamy base that brought it all together, adding a velvety richness that balanced the pasta and tuna. The breadcrumb topping, when baked to a golden brown, gave the casserole a delightful crunch that made each bite extra satisfying. Tuna noodle casserole was a beloved dish, not just because it was cheap, but because it became synonymous with comfort. It was quick to prepare, easy to adapt to whatever was in the pantry, and fed a crowd with minimal effort. In an era when time was often tight and money even tighter, it was a perfect solution for a filling, warm meal. To make it, simply cook the egg noodles as directed, then combine them with drained tuna, canned peas, and cream of mushroom soup. Stir everything together and transfer it to a greased casserole dish. Sprinkle breadcrumbs on top for a crispy finish and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until the top is golden and the casserole is bubbling. It's a dish that brings both nostalgia and comfort with every bite, an enduring reminder of how home cooks made magic with what they had. Hamburger stroganoff. Hamburger stroganoff is one of those budget-friendly meals that carries a sense of nostalgia, especially for those who grew up in the 1960s and 1970s.
To know a lot about making delicious comfort food.
This hearty dish was a clever twist on the classic beef stroganoff, which traditionally used more expensive cuts of beef. In the budget-conscious world of the 1960s, ground beef became the star ingredient, offering a satisfying and economical alternative without sacrificing flavor. It's the kind of meal that gives you a sense of comfort, both in taste and in its ability to stretch a dollar. The beauty of hamburger stroganoff lies in its simplicity. Ground beef, onions, and a creamy sauce made from sour cream and beef broth come together to create a rich, velvety dish that is as filling as it is flavorful. The original beef stroganoff may have been a dish of luxury, often served to the elite, but ground beef made it accessible to everyone. It was a perfect meal for families on a tight budget, but still craving something savory and satisfying. Over the years, hamburger stroganoff became a go-to weeknight dinner, frequently paired with egg noodles or rice, which were both inexpensive and quick to cook. The dish's creamy texture was irresistible, with the sour cream adding a tangy richness that balanced the savory beef. The addition of onions provided just enough sweetness to round out the flavors, while a little flour thickened the sauce, giving it a luxurious feel that was all about getting the most out of simple ingredients. The dish's versatility made it a winner in the kitchen. It could be adapted with different seasonings or vegetables based on what was available, making it an easy go-to when you needed to use up pantry staples or leftovers. To make this classic, start by browning ground beef with onions until fully cooked, then stir in some flour to create a roux. Add beef broth, let it simmer, and finish with a generous swirl of sour cream to bring it all together. Serve over egg noodles, and you've got a quick, comforting meal that's been a staple of budget cooking for decades. It's a dish that proves sometimes the simplest recipes are the ones that stand the test of time. Chipped beef on toast. Chipped beef on toast, or as it's affectionately known in some circles, SOS, which stands for stuff on a shingle, is a classic comfort food that rose to popularity during the Depression era and carried on through the 1940s and beyond.
We are making SOS. You're not going to want to miss this one.
The dish, simple yet satisfying, became a lifesaver for families and soldiers alike, offering a filling meal made with inexpensive ingredients that were easy to store and prepare. It's the type of dish that fills you up without emptying your wallet, perfect for hard times when every meal needed to stretch a little further. At its core, chipped beef on toast is composed of dried salted beef, often called chipped beef, and a creamy white gravy served over slices of toast. The chipped beef, which was often a military ration during World War II, was both cheap and shelf-stable, making it a practical choice for households looking to make the most out of limited resources. The dried beef, after being soaked to remove some of the excess salt, is simmered in a rich white gravy made from butter, flour, and milk, creating a creamy sauce that envelopes the beef. This sauce, poured generously over crispy toast, became a comforting meal that carried the taste of home during difficult times. The beauty of chipped beef on toast is its simplicity. There's no need for fancy ingredients or complicated techniques. The dish is all about making something delicious out of basic pantry staples. It's easy to prepare, and the savory, creamy flavor of the beef in the sauce is offset by the crunchy, toasted bread beneath it. It's a meal that evokes nostalgia and warmth, bringing families together over something that feels both humble and hearty. Chipped beef on toast also became a staple for the military during World War II, where it was served to soldiers in the form of a quick, nutritious, and filling meal. The name, SOS, became synonymous with the dish because of its prevalence in military rations and its ability to provide soldiers with the energy they needed during long, grueling days. To make it, simply melt butter in a pan and stir in flour to make a roux. Gradually add milk to create a smooth sauce, then stir in the chipped beef and let it simmer until everything is heated through. Serve the creamy beef over toasted bread and enjoy the nostalgic, comforting flavors of a dish that's been around for generations. Scrambled egg casserole. Scrambled egg casserole is a dish that beautifully embodies the spirit of resourceful cooking from the 1960s and 1970s. It was the perfect solution for busy families who needed to make the most of what was available in the kitchen, and it quickly became a favorite for breakfast, brunch, or even dinner.
I have been making this egg casserole for 13 years.
The beauty of this casserole lies in its simplicity. It takes a handful of basic ingredients, often leftover meats or vegetables, and transforms them into a warm, comforting dish that can feed a crowd. Eggs were an affordable and versatile protein, and during the 1960s, they were often the centerpiece of quick, budget-friendly meals. This casserole takes eggs and combines them with bread, cheese, and a variety of other ingredients to create a filling, hearty meal. The dish often included leftover meats like ham or sausage, and sometimes vegetables such as peppers, onions, or spinach, making it a perfect way to use up what was in the fridge. It was also easily adaptable to whatever you had on hand, meaning that no two scrambled egg casseroles had to be exactly alike. The casserole was often made the night before, then popped into the oven the next morning for a fuss-free breakfast. The eggs would be beaten and combined with milk, creating a custardy base that would hold together the bread cubes, meat, and vegetables. A generous sprinkling of cheese added flavor and richness, and once baked, the casserole would puff up to create a satisfying dish with layers of texture, from the creamy eggs to the crunchy bits of bread on top. Beyond its versatility, scrambled egg casserole became a popular dish at church potlucks, family gatherings, and holiday breakfasts. It was a go-to for feeding a large group without spending a lot of money, and it never failed to bring comfort and joy to the table. The casserole was simple but packed with flavor, a perfect example of how the best meals sometimes come from the most basic ingredients. To make this dish, beat eggs with milk and add any leftover meat or vegetables you have. Layer the bread in a casserole dish, pour the egg mixture over it, and top with cheese. Bake until golden and bubbly, and enjoy the nostalgic, hearty flavors of this beloved classic. It's a dish that proves that even the most straightforward ingredients can create something special. Peanut butter soup. Peanut butter soup might sound unusual to the modern palate, but it's a dish with deep roots in history, particularly during the Great Depression and into the 1930s and 1940s. During these times, people had to get creative with what was available, and peanut butter emerged as a budget-friendly, high-protein ingredient that could stretch a meal without sacrificing flavor.
Peanut butter soup. If you want to learn how to make this recipe, please keep watching.
Peanut butter soup is a shining example of how the most humble ingredients often found in the pantry could be transformed into something surprisingly comforting and nourishing. This soup, which blends peanut butter with broth, creates a rich, creamy base that has a subtle, nutty flavor. It's often made with a simple combination of peanut butter, chicken, or vegetable broth, onions, and sometimes a touch of flour to help thicken the soup. The result is a velvety, savory soup with a slight sweetness from the peanut butter that adds a surprising depth of flavor. While it may seem like an unlikely combination, the peanut butter adds richness and a unique twist that makes the soup feel both hearty and satisfying. Peanut butter soup was especially popular during times when ingredients like meat or fresh vegetables were harder to come by. Peanut butter, which was cheap and had a long shelf life, became a kitchen staple. Not only was it a source of protein, but it also provided a creamy texture that could help create soups, sauces, and even stews. This soup became a clever way to make a little go a long way, especially when a family was looking for a filling meal without breaking the bank. While this dish may sound strange to some, it became a comfort food for those who grew up with it. It's the kind of soup that warms you from the inside, filling you up without being heavy. And because peanut butter is so adaptable, you can add a variety of seasonings and extras such as garlic, spices, or even a splash of cream to give the soup your personal touch. To make this dish, simply saute onions in butter, stir in the peanut butter to create a smooth base, and add your broth. Let it simmer until it thickens to your desired consistency, and then season with salt and pepper to taste. Serve it with a slice of crusty bread for dipping, and you'll discover why this dish has stood the test of time as a comforting and unexpected meal. Potato salad. Potato salad has long been a beloved dish in American cuisine, especially throughout the 1940s and 1950s when it became a staple for picnics, potlucks, and family gatherings. The beauty of this dish lies in its simplicity.
Make today's recipe for potato salad.
A handful of inexpensive ingredients can be transformed into a satisfying side dish that feeds a crowd. Whether it's a summer barbecue or a holiday meal, potato salad is the kind of dish that brings people together, offering a cool, creamy contrast to the hot grilled fare that usually accompanies it. During the mid-20th century, potatoes were a household mainstay, and their versatility made them an ideal ingredient for budget-friendly meals. Potato salad became a popular choice for large gatherings because it could be made in bulk without costing much. The basic ingredients, potatoes, mayonnaise, mustard, and hard-boiled eggs, are pantry and fridge staples that were affordable for families, even during tough economic times. The dressing, typically made from mayonnaise and a touch of mustard, adds a creamy texture with a subtle tang that complements the earthiness of the potatoes. In the early days, potato salad was seen as a no-frills dish, but as time went on, it began to be personalized with regional twists. Some families added pickles, celery, or onions for extra crunch, while others threw in herbs like dill or chives to give it a fresh, aromatic bite. The hard-boiled eggs, often a leftover from breakfast or Easter celebrations, added a richness and extra protein to the salad, making it more filling. It became a dish that could evolve based on what was available in the kitchen, ensuring it could be made to fit any occasion or preference. Potato salad was often served as a side, but its creamy texture and savory flavor made it a meal in its own right for many families on a budget. It was the kind of dish that, once made, could last for days in the refrigerator, making it a perfect choice for leftovers. To make it, boil your potatoes until they're tender but not mushy, then chop them into bite-sized pieces. Mix them with mayonnaise, mustard, and finely chopped onions or pickles. Stir in chopped hard-boiled eggs and season with salt and pepper to taste. Let it chill in the fridge for a couple of hours before serving, and enjoy the comforting, tangy flavor of a dish that has been a family favorite for generations. Hot dog hash. Hot dog hash is one of those classic dishes that turns the humble hot dog into something much more than just a quick snack.
We're doing the hot dog hash brown casserole.
It's a hearty, budget-friendly meal that became especially popular during the 1940s and 1950s when families were learning to stretch every dollar and make do with what they had. The hot dog, inexpensive and versatile, was an ideal ingredient to bulk up meals and turn simple dinners into something that could feed a family. Hot dog hash took this everyday food and combined it with potatoes and onions to create a warm, filling dish that was perfect for busy weeknights or a Sunday supper. The beauty of hot dog hash lies in its simplicity and ease of preparation. At its core, it's just hot dogs, potatoes, and onions, all cooked together in one pan. The potatoes are diced and cooked until crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, while the onions add a slight sweetness and depth of flavor. The hot dogs, sliced into coins or chunks, brown beautifully, infusing the dish with their savory, smoky flavor. The result is a satisfying hash that balances the crispy texture of the potatoes with the meaty richness of the hot dogs, making it the ultimate comfort food. What made hot dog hash such a go-to meal during the mid-20th century was its adaptability. Families could easily throw in other vegetables they had on hand, like bell peppers, peas, or even leftover carrots, to add a bit of color and nutrition. You could also throw in seasonings like garlic powder, paprika, or a splash of Worcestershire sauce to bring in some extra flavor. It was the kind of dish that didn't require a recipe and could be adjusted to fit whatever you had in your kitchen. Despite its humble ingredients, hot dog hash became a beloved dish because it was satisfying, flavorful, and easy to make. It was a perfect example of how creativity in the kitchen could turn a few simple items into something special. Whether served with a side of ketchup or a dollop of mustard, hot dog hash was the kind of meal that brought comfort and joy without costing much. To make this dish, start by dicing your potatoes and cooking them in a skillet with some oil until golden and crispy. Add in the sliced hot dogs and onions, cooking until the hot dogs are browned and the onions are soft. Season to taste and serve hot. It's a dish that's as simple as it is delicious, just like the times it came from. Cornbread and milk. Cornbread and milk is one of those nostalgic, no-frills meals that can transport you straight to simpler times. This humble dish, born out of necessity during the Great Depression and continuing through the 1940s and beyond, was the ultimate comfort food for families on a tight budget. Cornbread, made from inexpensive ingredients like cornmeal, flour, and milk, was a filling, affordable staple that could stretch for days. When paired with a glass of cold milk, it became a hearty, satisfying meal, perfect for those times when you needed to make the most of what was in your pantry. In the days before boxed mixes, cornbread was a dish that almost every home cook could make from scratch. The basic ingredients were pantry staples: cornmeal, flour, baking powder, sugar, eggs, and milk. Cornmeal in particular was cheap and versatile, and it quickly became a go-to ingredient for feeding families. Whether baked in a skillet or a simple baking dish, cornbread was the perfect accompaniment to any meal. But it could also stand alone as a meal in itself when served with milk. The beauty of cornbread is that it's both comforting and filling. Its slightly crumbly texture and subtly sweet flavor make it an ideal companion to savory dishes. But it's also perfect when eaten by itself, especially when soaked in a glass of cold milk. For many families, it wasn't just a side dish, but a meal that could stretch for several days, with the leftover cornbread being served alongside soup or stew. It was simple, nourishing, and gave people the energy they needed to get through the day. Cornbread and milk was also a dish that carried a sense of nostalgia. For children, the idea of dipping cornbread into a glass of milk was pure comfort. And for adults, it reminded them of more frugal times when every ingredient counted and nothing went to waste. To make this dish, combine cornmeal, flour, sugar, baking powder, eggs, milk, and butter to make a simple cornbread batter. Bake it in a hot, greased pan until golden brown and a toothpick comes out clean. Serve with a generous glass of milk and enjoy the comforting flavors of a meal that has been a symbol of resourcefulness and simplicity for generations. Baked beans and franks. Baked beans and franks is a quintessential comfort food that epitomizes frugality and resourcefulness, especially during the 1930s and 1940s. This hearty dish was a staple in many households, offering a filling, flavorful meal using simple, budget-friendly ingredients.
And beans. That's right. Do you really think when Warren Buffett or Bill Gates...
The combination of canned baked beans and hot dogs, two inexpensive, shelf-stable items, came together to create a dish that was both satisfying and easy to prepare. Whether served for a family dinner, a picnic, or as a quick weeknight meal, baked beans and franks became a beloved classic for generations. The dish itself is deceptively simple. Canned baked beans provide the base, while hot dogs, or franks, are sliced into pieces and added to the beans, simmering together to meld the flavors. The result is a rich, savory dish that combines the sweetness of the beans with the smoky, meaty flavor of the hot dogs. The dish is often seasoned with brown sugar, mustard, and sometimes a dash of Worcestershire sauce, which adds depth and complexity to the sauce. It's the kind of dish that benefits from being cooked slowly, allowing all the flavors to come together in one satisfying, bubbling pot. Baked beans and franks became a go-to meal not just because it was cheap, but because it was incredibly versatile. The dish could be easily adapted to fit whatever ingredients you had on hand. Some families added chopped onions, bell peppers, or even a splash of barbecue sauce for extra flavor. It could be served with a side of cornbread or a simple green salad to round out the meal. And because it was made with canned beans and hot dogs, it had a long shelf life, making it the perfect dish to prepare when fresh ingredients were scarce or when you wanted a meal that could last for several days. For many, baked beans and franks was a nostalgic reminder of simpler times. It was a meal that, while inexpensive, was full of heart and flavor. Its straightforward preparation and comforting flavors made it a favorite in homes across America from the Depression to the post-war years and beyond. To make baked beans and franks, simply slice your hot dogs and add them to a pot of canned baked beans. Stir in a bit of brown sugar, mustard, and Worcestershire sauce, and let it simmer until the flavors meld together. Serve hot and enjoy the satisfying, nostalgic flavors of a dish that has endured through the decades. Meatloaf. Meatloaf is a true American classic, a dish that has stood the test of time for generations. It first gained widespread popularity in the early 20th century and became a household favorite during the 1940s and 1950s, especially when budgets were tight and meals needed to be both filling and affordable. Meatloaf was the perfect solution for feeding a family.
Guys, how to make the most juicy, delicious meatloaf that
Ground beef, breadcrumbs, and eggs came together to form a hearty, comforting meal that could stretch a few ingredients into a satisfying dish. Plus, it was incredibly versatile and easy to customize with what was available in the kitchen. The beauty of meatloaf lies in its simplicity. The basic ingredients, ground beef, breadcrumbs, eggs, and milk, are often staples in most pantries and fridges. Mixing these together with some seasonings like salt, pepper, and garlic creates a flavorful base. Some families added onions, bell peppers, or even a bit of ketchup or mustard for extra tang and moisture. Once combined, the mixture is shaped into a loaf and baked until it's golden and cooked through. The resulting dish is moist, savory, and just the right kind of hearty to satisfy the hungriest appetites. Meatloaf was also a fantastic way to make a little go a long way. Ground beef was much cheaper than other cuts of meat, and when combined with breadcrumbs and eggs, it created a dish that could feed a crowd. Leftovers were also easily repurposed the next day, whether turned into sandwiches or served alongside mashed potatoes and vegetables. Meatloaf didn't go to waste. One of the most iconic aspects of meatloaf is the glaze that often tops it. A simple mixture of ketchup and brown sugar is brushed on the meatloaf before baking, creating a sweet, sticky topping that caramelizes in the oven. This glaze gives the meatloaf an irresistible shine and a punch of flavor that complements the savory filling. To make meatloaf, combine ground beef with breadcrumbs, eggs, milk, and seasonings, then shape it into a loaf and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. For the glaze, mix ketchup with a little brown sugar and brush it over the top during the last 15 minutes of baking. Let it cool slightly before slicing and enjoy the comforting, nostalgic flavors of a dish that has fed generations. Cabbage soup. Cabbage soup is the perfect example of how frugality can lead to incredibly comforting and satisfying meals. It became a staple during the Depression era and continued its popularity throughout the 1940s, when families needed to make the most of the ingredients they had on hand.
I'm going to make a cabbage soup. What's so great about cabbage soup is
Cabbage, an inexpensive and nutritious vegetable, became the backbone of this soup, offering both bulk and flavor without costing much. With its simple, earthy taste, cabbage soup became a way to stretch a meal while still providing warmth and nourishment during tough times. The dish itself is wonderfully straightforward. Cabbage, carrots, onions, and potatoes are simmered together in a flavorful broth, creating a nourishing soup that's as humble as it is hearty. It doesn't require fancy spices or elaborate techniques, which made it ideal for families on a budget. The cabbage, when cooked slowly, becomes soft and tender, releasing its subtle sweetness, while the potatoes and carrots add additional texture and flavor to the mix. The broth, which could be homemade or store-bought, ties everything together with a savory base, making the soup both satisfying and comforting. Cabbage soup was incredibly versatile. You could add in whatever leftover vegetables or scraps you had in the fridge, like peas, beans, or celery, and it would still taste wonderful. It was the kind of meal that could be easily adjusted to fit what you had available, making it an essential dish for resourceful home cooks. Plus, cabbage was so affordable and had a long shelf life, making it an ideal ingredient for a meal that could feed a family for days. What made cabbage soup so beloved was not only its simplicity, but its ability to fill you up without emptying your wallet. It became a meal that warmed the body and soul, And over the years, it has remained a comforting reminder of how even the most basic ingredients can come together to create something hearty and fulfilling. To make cabbage soup, start by sautéing onions and carrots in a bit of oil until softened. Add in chopped cabbage, potatoes, and broth, then simmer until the vegetables are tender and the flavors have melded together. Season with salt and pepper to taste and serve hot. The result is a dish that brings comfort with every spoonful. A reminder that simple, humble ingredients can create something truly special. Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes are the kind of dish that brings both nostalgia and satisfaction with every bite. This classic comfort food, popularized in the 1950s and 1960s, quickly became a favorite for busy families looking for a quick, hearty, and affordable meal. The Sloppy Joe combines ground beef, a tangy tomato-based sauce, and a few simple seasonings, all served on a soft hamburger bun. It's messy, flavorful, and fun to eat, a dish that has stood the test of time because of its delicious simplicity. The story of Sloppy Joes begins with the versatile, affordable ground beef. In the 1950s, ground beef became a kitchen staple because it was inexpensive, easy to cook, and could be stretched to feed a family. The addition of ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, and mustard created a tangy, savory sauce that perfectly complemented the meat, making it rich and flavorful. The dish was originally known as loose meat sandwiches, but over time, it became affectionately known as Sloppy Joes due to the messy, saucy nature of the meal. What made Sloppy Joes so popular was how easy they were to prepare. The ingredients were simple, and you didn't need any special skills to make them. It was the kind of meal you could whip up after a long day, and it didn't require a lot of time to cook. Just brown the ground beef, stir in the sauce ingredients, and simmer for a few minutes to let the flavors meld together. Once it's ready, spoon the mixture onto a bun, and you've got a satisfying meal that everyone can enjoy. Sloppy Joes were also a great way to stretch a pound of ground beef to feed a family. You could easily double or triple the recipe to serve a larger crowd, and leftovers were always welcome. Whether served with a side of chips, a simple salad, or some crunchy pickles, Sloppy Joes were the perfect meal to bring everyone together around the dinner table. To make Sloppy Joes, start by browning ground beef in a skillet with onions, then stir in ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, mustard, and a pinch of sugar. Let it simmer until thickened, then serve the savory mixture on soft hamburger buns. It's a dish that's as simple as it is delicious, with a messy, irresistible charm that makes it a classic. Rice pudding. Rice pudding is the kind of humble, comforting dessert that evokes memories of simpler times. It has been a beloved dish for generations, and its popularity soared during the Great Depression and beyond, when families needed to make the most of every ingredient. Rice, a cheap and versatile pantry staple, became the star of this dessert. Rice pudding takes just a few basic ingredients: rice, milk, sugar, and a dash of cinnamon, and transforms them into a creamy, soothing treat that can feed a crowd without costing much. The beauty of rice pudding lies in its simplicity. Cooked rice is simmered in milk, sugar, and spices until it thickens into a velvety, custard-like consistency. The cinnamon adds a warm, aromatic touch, and the sugar brings a comforting sweetness that makes the dish feel like a treat. Though many versions of rice pudding are made with eggs, the simpler versions, often seen in vintage cookbooks, rely solely on the starchiness of the rice to create the creamy texture. This makes it both easy to prepare and wonderfully economical. Rice pudding was a perfect dish for families on a budget. Rice was an inexpensive ingredient that could be purchased in bulk, and milk and sugar were common household items. It was also a fantastic way to use up leftover rice, making it a frugal but satisfying dessert or even breakfast. Whether served warm or chilled, rice pudding offers a sense of nostalgia, taking many back to their childhood kitchens, where the comforting scent of cinnamon and vanilla filled the air. In many households, rice pudding wasn't just a dessert, it was a meal in itself. It could be eaten as an after-dinner treat, a midday snack, or even a breakfast when served with a splash of milk. And because it could be easily refrigerated, it often lasted for a few days, making it an excellent option for busy families or those looking to stretch their ingredients further. To make rice pudding, simply simmer cooked rice with milk and sugar in a pot, stirring occasionally. Add a pinch of cinnamon and vanilla extract for flavor, and continue to cook until the mixture thickens to your desired consistency. Serve warm or chilled, and enjoy this timeless, comforting dessert that's both frugal and satisfying. Biscuits and gravy. Biscuits and gravy is the epitome of Southern comfort food, a dish that has been warming the bellies of families for generations. This hearty breakfast or brunch dish became a staple in the South during the 1930s and 1940s, when families were learning how to make the most of inexpensive ingredients. Biscuits, which were simple to make and could be served with almost anything, became the perfect vehicle for rich, creamy sausage gravy. It's a dish that's not only filling, but also deeply nostalgic, reminding us of a time when meals were designed to keep you full and satisfied for hours. At its core, biscuits and gravy is all about the contrast of textures. The flaky, buttery biscuits are the perfect base, absorbing the thick, savory sausage gravy that's poured over them. The gravy itself is made from sausage, usually ground pork, which is browned and then cooked with flour to make a roux. Milk is added to create a rich, creamy sauce, which is seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes a bit of cayenne or sage for extra flavor. The result is a warm, comforting meal that's perfect for starting the day or enjoying as a satisfying midday dish. What made biscuits and gravy so popular during tough economic times was how inexpensive it was to make. Flour, milk, and sausage were all relatively cheap, and biscuits were simple to prepare, often made with just a few basic ingredients. The dish could be whipped up quickly, making it ideal for busy mornings or for feeding a crowd on a limited budget. Plus, it was a dish that could easily be scaled up to serve more people. Just add more biscuits and more gravy, and you could feed the whole family with ease. While biscuits and gravy is now a classic comfort food, it has always been a dish that speaks to the resourcefulness of home cooks. It's filling, it's rich, and it's made with love. Whether served with a side of eggs, bacon, or just enjoyed on its own, this dish has remained a beloved comfort food for generations. To make biscuits and gravy, start by baking homemade or store-bought biscuits. For the gravy, cook ground sausage in a skillet, breaking it up as it cooks. Once the sausage is browned, stir in flour to make a roux, then gradually add milk, stirring constantly until the gravy thickens. Season with salt, pepper, and any additional spices you like. Pour the gravy over the biscuits and serve hot for a comforting, satisfying meal. Chicken and rice. Chicken and rice is a classic comfort dish that has been a go-to meal for families on a budget for generations. Popularized during the mid-20th century, particularly in the 1940s and 1950s, it became a staple for busy families needing a filling, easy-to-make dinner that could stretch $1 without sacrificing flavor. The simplicity of the dish, chicken, rice, and a few pantry staples, made it not only affordable but also versatile, easily adapted to whatever ingredients were on hand. At its heart, chicken and rice is all about combining two basic ingredients, chicken and rice. The chicken provides a hearty protein, while the rice acts as a satisfying filler, soaking up all the flavors of the broth or seasoning. The dish can be made using various cuts of chicken, with thighs or drumsticks being the most affordable choices. These are simmered in a flavorful broth, along with onions, carrots, and sometimes celery, creating a savory base for the rice. The rice, often cooked directly in the same pot, absorbs all the flavors, making it a one-pot meal that's easy to clean up. The beauty of chicken and rice is its flexibility. If you didn't have chicken broth, you could make it with water and seasonings. Leftover vegetables could be tossed in for extra flavor and nutrition, and herbs like thyme or bay leaves added an aromatic touch. The dish could also be jazzed up with a sprinkle of cheese, a splash of cream, or even a dollop of sour cream to make it richer, depending on what was available in the kitchen. Chicken and rice became a favorite because it was both affordable and filling. It could be stretched to feed a large family, and leftovers were often just as good the next day, making it perfect for busy weeknights. The simplicity of the dish allowed it to be cooked in a variety of ways, whether baked in the oven or simmered on the stovetop, and it was always a reliable, comforting choice. To make chicken and rice, start by browning your chicken pieces in a pot. Once browned, add chopped onions, carrots, and any other vegetables you like. Stir in rice and broth, bring it to a boil, then cover and simmer until the rice is tender and the chicken is fully cooked. It's a dish that's as simple as it is satisfying, comfort food that has remained a beloved family meal for generations. Tater tot casserole. Tater tot casserole is the ultimate in comfort food. blending the simplicity of frozen potatoes with hearty ingredients to create a dish that's both filling and nostalgic. Popularized in the 1950s and 1960s, this casserole became a go-to for busy families looking for a cheap, easy meal that could feed a crowd. Its base of ground beef and vegetables topped with crispy tater tots made it a hearty, satisfying dish that didn't require a lot of prep or expensive ingredients. In fact, it became known as a throw-together meal, one that could be made with what was available in the pantry or freezer. The dish is as straightforward as it is comforting. Ground beef is browned and mixed with cream of mushroom soup to create a creamy base, often seasoned with onions, garlic, and sometimes Worcestershire sauce for added depth. Some variations include vegetables like peas or corn, which are stirred into the mixture. The magic happens when you top the casserole with frozen tater tots, those crispy, golden little potato nuggets that bake to perfection while the casserole cooks. They form a crunchy, golden crust on top, making each bite a perfect mix of creamy, savory, and crispy textures. Tater tot casserole is also incredibly versatile. You can add any vegetables or seasonings you like and even swap the ground beef for ground turkey or chicken. The beauty of the dish is that it can be customized to fit whatever ingredients you have on hand. And because it's made with inexpensive items like frozen potatoes, canned soup, and ground meat, it's a meal that can be prepared on a tight budget. The fact that it's easy to throw together, bakes in one pan, and requires minimal effort makes it a favorite in many homes. Beyond its affordability and convenience, tater tot casserole became a dish that was loved for its ability to comfort. It's the kind of meal you make when you want to feel full, satisfied, and warm, all without breaking the bank. Whether served at a family dinner or brought to a potluck, this casserole was sure to be a hit. To make tater tot casserole, brown the ground beef with onions, then stir in a can of cream of mushroom soup and any vegetables you're using. Spread the mixture into a greased baking dish and top with frozen tater tots. Bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, or until the tater tots are golden and the casserole is bubbly. It's a dish that's as easy to make as it is to love, comfort in every bite. Macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese is a dish that has long been a beloved comfort food, offering a delicious, creamy experience without the hefty price tag. Its roots stretch back to the early 1900s, but it truly became a household staple during the 1940s and 1950s, when boxed versions of the dish began appearing on grocery store shelves, making it even more accessible to families on a budget. But whether homemade or from a box, mac and cheese became the quintessential comfort food for families looking to stretch their food budget while still serving a meal that everyone would enjoy. At its core, macaroni and cheese is about the combination of two simple ingredients: macaroni and cheese. The basic version starts with elbow macaroni, cooked until tender, and a creamy cheese sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and of course, cheese. The beauty of this dish is how versatile it is. You can use any kind of cheese you have on hand, from sharp cheddar to the more mild American cheese. The sauce is made by melting butter, then adding flour to create a roux, followed by milk to make it creamy. Once the sauce thickens, the cheese is stirred in, creating a velvety, cheesy sauce that coats every piece of pasta perfectly. The dish itself is comforting and indulgent, with the richness of the cheese sauce balanced by the bite of the macaroni. Many versions also include a topping of breadcrumbs, which when baked, forms a crispy golden crust that adds an extra layer of texture to the creamy dish. Macaroni and cheese could be served as a main course or as a side dish alongside meats or vegetables, but no matter how you serve it, it's always a crowd pleaser. Mac and cheese also became a go-to meal during times when families needed to make the most out of what they had. Pasta was inexpensive, cheese could be bought in large blocks, and the dish could be easily adjusted with different cheeses, seasonings, or add-ins like bacon or vegetables. It was also a great way to use up leftovers, with some even turning it into a baked casserole that could feed a family for days. To make classic mac and cheese, cook the elbow macaroni according to package instructions, then make a simple cheese sauce by melting butter and adding flour to form a roux. Slowly whisk in milk and stir until the sauce thickens. Add in cheese, stirring until melted and smooth. Mix the cheese sauce with the cooked macaroni, then transfer to a baking dish. If you like, top with breadcrumbs and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes until golden and bubbly. It's a dish that's easy to make, delightfully cheesy, and perfect for comforting family meals. Beef and vegetable stew. Beef and vegetable stew is a hearty, filling dish that has been a beloved comfort food for generations. During the 1930s and 1940s, it became especially popular as families were looking for ways to make a small amount of meat go further. The combination of inexpensive vegetables and a modest cut of beef created a stew that was both nutritious and satisfying, ideal for stretching a limited grocery budget. This stew became a go-to meal in households, offering a warm and comforting dinner that could be served for days, often improving in flavor after sitting overnight. At the heart of beef and vegetable stew are a few simple, affordable ingredients. Tough cuts of beef, like chuck roast or stew meat, are simmered slowly with carrots, potatoes, onions, and sometimes peas or celery. The beef, when cooked low and slow, becomes tender and infused with the rich flavors of the vegetables and broth. The vegetables themselves add color, texture, and nourishment to the dish, with the potatoes and carrots providing sweetness and the onions offering depth of flavor. The broth, usually made from beef stock or water and seasonings, ties everything together, making each bite a comforting combination of tender meat, flavorful broth, and hearty vegetables. The beauty of beef and vegetable stew lies in its simplicity. It's one of those dishes that can be customized based on what you have in your kitchen. Whether you want to add more vegetables like parsnips or turnips, or experiment with different herbs and spices like thyme or bay leaves, the stew's versatility made it a great choice for families, as it was easy to prepare and could be adjusted to fit personal tastes or what was available in the pantry. Another reason beef and vegetable stew became so popular was its ability to feed a crowd and stretch the budget. The slow cooking process meant that even tougher, cheaper cuts of meat could be transformed into something tender and flavorful, making it a practical choice for large families or gatherings. It was also perfect for leftovers, often tasting even better the next day as the flavors melded together. To make beef and vegetable stew, begin by browning the beef in a large pot with a bit of oil to develop a rich, savory base. Add in chopped onions and cook until softened. Then stir in diced potatoes, carrots, and any other vegetables you like, along with beef broth or water. Bring the stew to a boil, then reduce the heat and let it simmer for an hour or more, until the beef is tender and the flavors are fully developed. Season with salt, pepper, and herbs to taste, and serve hot. This dish is the perfect blend of simplicity, nourishment, and comfort, something that's been warming families for generations. Fried rice. Fried rice is one of those dishes that proves you don't need a lot of ingredients to make something flavorful and satisfying. Though its roots trace back to Chinese cuisine, it became incredibly popular in America during the mid-20th century, particularly in the 1950s and 1960s. It was the perfect budget meal, allowing home cooks to transform leftover rice, vegetables, and small amounts of meat into a hearty dish that could feed a family. Fried rice is a versatile one-pan meal that not only makes use of whatever is in your fridge, but also offers a delightful combination of textures and flavors. At its core, fried rice is made with cooked rice that's been stir-fried in a hot skillet with a little oil, then mixed with ingredients like onions, carrots, peas, and sometimes bits of leftover meat like chicken, pork, or even ham. The beauty of this dish is that it can be tailored to whatever you have on hand. Many versions include scrambled eggs, which add richness and protein, while soy sauce brings that savory, umami flavor that ties the whole dish together. It's a meal that can be thrown together in minutes, using ingredients you might already have in your pantry or refrigerator. The appeal of fried rice lies not just in its convenience, but in its ability to turn small amounts of ingredients into a satisfying, complete meal. Leftover rice, a staple in most homes, is perfect for this dish because it's already a bit drier, which helps it fry up beautifully and soak up all the flavors. The addition of vegetables like peas, carrots, and onions not only adds color, but also nutrition, making it a well-rounded dish. If you have some leftover protein, whether from a roast chicken or a slice of ham, it's an excellent way to stretch those leftovers into another meal. During times when money was tight, fried rice was a lifesaver. It made use of whatever bits and pieces you had left from previous meals, allowing you to create a dish that was both filling and inexpensive. It also became a staple in many households because it could easily be made in a single pan, which meant less mess and a quicker cleanup, perfect for busy families. To make fried rice, start by cooking your rice, preferably a day ahead so it's nice and dry. In a hot skillet, heat some oil and sauté onions and any other vegetables you're using. If you have leftover meat, add it in, then push the mixture to the side and scramble an egg in the same pan. Once the egg is cooked, stir everything together and add the rice, soy sauce, and a dash of salt and pepper. Fry everything together until heated through and enjoy the delicious, savory flavors of a dish that's as simple as it is satisfying. Chili. Chili is a dish that has long been a favorite for those looking for a filling, flavorful meal that won't break the bank. Originating in the American Southwest, chili became a go-to meal during the Great Depression and a comfort food classic ever since. It was the perfect dish to make when money was tight, as it could be made with inexpensive ground beef, beans, and a few spices, while still providing a hearty, satisfying meal. Over time, chili became a versatile dish with many regional variations, but at its core, it's all about the rich, spicy combination of meat, beans, and a flavorful tomato base. The beauty of chili lies in its simplicity and the ability to adapt it to what you have available. The base typically includes ground beef, onions, and garlic, sautéed together to create a savory foundation. Then, tomatoes, either fresh or canned, are added, along with beans, usually kidney or pinto beans, that not only provide texture, but also stretch the dish to feed more people. The seasoning is where chili gets its punch. Chili powder, cumin, and a bit of paprika bring heat and depth, while a touch of sugar helps balance the acidity of the tomatoes. Some recipes even call for a bit of cocoa powder or coffee to deepen the flavor further. Chili became especially popular because it was an incredibly budget-friendly way to feed a crowd. The combination of ground beef and beans provided protein and fiber, while the spices brought flavor without requiring expensive ingredients. Plus, chili could easily be made in large batches, making it perfect for feeding a family or sharing with neighbors. It's the kind of dish that only gets better after a day or two, as the flavors continue to meld together, making it ideal for leftovers. Over time, chili found its place at potlucks, tailgates, and even family dinners, often topped with cheese, sour cream, or a sprinkle of chopped onions. It was the perfect one-pot meal, easy to prepare, affordable, and guaranteed to satisfy even the hungriest appetites. To make chili, start by browning ground beef with chopped onions and garlic. Once the beef is cooked through, add canned tomatoes, beans, chili powder, cumin, paprika, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Let the chili simmer for at least an hour, allowing the flavors to meld. Serve hot with your favorite toppings like shredded cheese, sour cream, or crackers. This dish is a true testament to the power of simple ingredients and how they can come together to create something truly comforting and satisfying. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff is a dish that exudes both elegance and simplicity, making it a beloved classic from the mid-20th century. Though it originally hails from Russia, its American version, popularized in the 1950s and 1960s, became a staple of budget-conscious home cooking. The dish was often made with affordable cuts of beef, such as stew meat or ground beef, and paired with a creamy sauce of sour cream and beef broth, making it both rich and comforting. It quickly became a go-to meal for busy families, as it was easy to make and could be served over inexpensive pasta or rice, stretching a small amount of meat into a hearty meal. The magic of beef stroganoff lies in its creamy, velvety sauce. The sauce is typically made by sautéing onions and mushrooms, then adding flour to create a roux before slowly whisking in beef broth and sour cream to create a smooth, tangy base. The beef is cooked in the sauce until tender, absorbing all the rich, savory flavors. While the dish is often served over egg noodles, it can also be paired with rice, mashed potatoes, or even a simple crusty bread to soak up the delicious sauce. What made beef stroganoff such a hit in American kitchens during the 1950s and 1960s was how quickly it could be made using pantry staples, and how it turned a small amount of beef into a filling and satisfying dish. The addition of sour cream provided the creamy richness that made this dish feel indulgent, even if it was made on a budget. It became a popular dinner option for families looking to impress guests or treat themselves to something special without spending a lot of money. Beef stroganoff's versatility also made it adaptable to different tastes and budgets. Some cooks swapped out the beef for chicken or even ground beef, while others added vegetables like peas or bell peppers to the mix for extra flavor and nutrition. Regardless of how it was made, beef stroganoff remained a comforting, crowd-pleasing dish that offered a delicious balance of savory, creamy, and slightly tangy flavors. To make beef stroganoff, brown pieces of beef in a skillet with onions and mushrooms, then create the sauce by adding flour, beef broth, and sour cream. Simmer the mixture until the beef is tender and the sauce is rich and creamy. Serve the beef and sauce over cooked egg noodles, rice, or mashed potatoes. It's a dish that combines simplicity with indulgence, perfect for a cozy, satisfying dinner. Pot roast. Pot roast is a hearty, comforting dish that has been a staple in American kitchens for generations. Often made with a tougher cut of beef like chuck roast, pot roast became popular during the 1940s and 1950s as a way to stretch a small amount of meat into a satisfying, filling meal. The beauty of a pot roast lies in its ability to turn a relatively inexpensive cut of beef into something tender, flavorful, and comforting through the magic of slow cooking. The key to a great pot roast is slow cooking. The beef is seared to develop a rich brown crust, and then cooked low and slow with onions, carrots, potatoes, and broth. As the roast simmers, the connective tissues in the meat break down, turning what was once a tough cut into a melt-in-your-mouth experience. The vegetables absorb the savory flavors from the beef and broth, making each bite a harmonious mix of tender meat and flavorful veggies. One of the reasons pot roast became so beloved is because it was an easy, one-pot meal. You could throw all the ingredients into a pot, set it on low, and let it cook throughout the day. By the time dinner rolled around, you had a delicious, hearty meal with minimal effort. Pot roast also made fantastic leftovers, which could be repurposed into sandwiches or added to soups, stretching the meal even further. To make pot roast, sear the beef in a hot pan, then place it in a slow cooker or Dutch oven with onions, carrots, potatoes, and beef broth. Season with salt, pepper, and herbs like thyme or rosemary, and let it cook for several hours until the meat is tender and the vegetables are cooked through. It's the kind of dish that's easy to prepare but full of flavor, perfect for a cozy, satisfying dinner. Split pea soup. Split pea soup is a classic, comforting dish that has been feeding families for generations, especially during times when money was tight. This hearty soup, often made with a ham bone or ham hocks, became popular during the Great Depression and has remained a go-to meal for those looking to make the most out of inexpensive ingredients. The star of the dish is split peas, which are affordable, nutritious, and full of fiber, making them an ideal choice for a filling low-cost meal. The beauty of split pea soup is in its simplicity. Split peas are simmered with onions, carrots, and celery to create a rich, savory base. If you're lucky enough to have leftover ham or a ham bone, it adds a smoky, meaty flavor that elevates the soup, but even without it, the soup is still hearty and satisfying. The peas break down as they cook, thickening the soup into a creamy, velvety consistency that's perfect for a cold day. What makes split pea soup so appealing is not just its cost effectiveness, but also its ability to improve with time. The soup only gets better as it sits, with the flavors deepening and melding together. It's a fantastic make-ahead meal, and leftovers are often even more delicious the next day. To make split pea soup, simply combine split peas, diced onions, carrots, celery, and a ham bone, if available, in a pot. Add water or broth, bring to a boil, then reduce to a simmer. Let it cook until the peas are tender and the soup has thickened. Season with salt, pepper, and a touch of thyme for flavor. Serve hot with a slice of crusty bread for a satisfying, nourishing meal. Corned beef and cabbage. Corned beef and cabbage is a dish that has long been associated with hearty, budget-friendly meals, particularly around St. Patrick's Day. However, it became a regular comfort food in American households throughout the mid-20th century. The beauty of this dish lies in its simplicity and its ability to turn inexpensive ingredients into a satisfying, flavorful meal. Corned beef, a salted beef brisket, is slow-cooked with cabbage, potatoes, and carrots to create a one-pot meal that's as nourishing as it is tasty. The process is simple. Corned beef is simmered with water or broth, along with seasonings like peppercorns and mustard seeds, which infuse the meat with rich flavor. Once the beef is tender, potatoes, carrots, and cabbage are added, cooking until soft and absorbing all the savory goodness from the meat. The result is a flavorful, filling meal that is perfect for a family dinner. Corned beef and cabbage became popular because it was not only easy to make, but also affordable, as corned beef could be purchased at a low cost and the vegetables were simple and inexpensive. To make this dish, simmer the corned beef with water and seasonings for a few hours, then add the vegetables and continue cooking until everything is tender. It's a classic comfort dish that has endured for decades. Egg salad. Egg salad is a simple yet classic dish that has been a favorite for generations, especially as a quick and affordable meal. Popularized during the mid-20th century, It's a perfect example of how a few inexpensive ingredients can come together to create a satisfying meal. Hard-boiled eggs, mayonnaise, mustard, and a pinch of salt and pepper are the basic ingredients, but it can easily be customized with additions like celery, onions, or pickles for extra crunch and flavor. Egg salad became a go-to dish because it was versatile, easy to make, and could stretch a dozen eggs into a hearty meal. Whether served on a sandwich with crackers or simply by itself, it's a dish that provides both protein and comfort. It's also a great way to use up leftover eggs and can be made in large batches to feed a crowd or have as leftovers. To make egg salad, chop hard-boiled eggs and mix them with mayonnaise, mustard, salt, and pepper. Add any extras you like, such as diced celery or pickles. Serve chilled and enjoy the creamy, satisfying flavors of a timeless favorite, stuffed peppers. Stuffed peppers are a classic, budget-friendly meal that has stood the test of time, offering a hearty and satisfying dish with minimal ingredients. Often made with bell peppers, ground beef, or another protein, rice, and seasonings, this dish became popular in the 1950s and 1960s as a way to stretch ground meat. The peppers act as the perfect vessel, holding a flavorful mixture of seasoned meat and rice, all baked together with a touch of tomato sauce or cheese on top. The simplicity of stuffed peppers made them an easy go-to meal. You could easily make a large batch to feed a family, and the dish was adaptable to whatever ingredients you had available. Leftover rice or vegetables could be thrown in, making it a great way to use up what was in the fridge. To make stuffed peppers, cut the tops off bell peppers and remove the seeds. Mix cooked rice with ground beef, onions, garlic, and seasoning, then stuff the peppers with the mixture. Top with tomato sauce and bake until tender. It's an easy, affordable dish that brings comfort with every bite. Slumgullion. Slumgullion is a classic, no-frills dish that became popular during the Great Depression and has remained a comforting, budget-friendly meal ever since. The beauty of slumgullion lies in its simplicity and versatility. Typically made with ground beef, canned tomatoes, and pasta, it's a dish that can be adapted to whatever ingredients are available. The base is often seasoned with onion, garlic, and a few herbs, creating a savory, flavorful stew that's filling and satisfying. What makes slumgullion stand out is its ability to stretch ingredients, making it perfect for large families or those on a tight budget. You can throw in whatever vegetables, beans, or pasta you have on hand, making it a great way to use up leftovers or pantry staples. To make slumgullion, brown ground beef with onions and garlic, then stir in canned tomatoes, pasta, and any other vegetables you have. Simmer until the pasta is tender and the flavors meld together. It's a simple, hearty meal that offers comfort and nourishment with minimal effort. Potato leek soup. Potato leek soup is a humble yet satisfying dish that has been cherished for generations, particularly during colder months when comfort food is a must. The combination of creamy potatoes and mild aromatic leeks creates a rich, hearty base, while the simplicity of the ingredients makes it a budget-friendly choice. Popular in the mid-20th century, this soup became a go-to for families looking to stretch a few simple ingredients into a filling, flavorful meal. The beauty of potato leek soup lies in its versatility. It can be made with just a few pantry staples: potatoes, leeks, butter, and broth, while seasoning it with salt, pepper, and herbs. The leeks add a subtle onion-like flavor without being overpowering, making it a perfect match for the potatoes' creamy texture. Often blended to a smooth consistency, it's the kind of soup that warms you from the inside out. To make potato leek soup, sauté leeks in butter until softened, then add diced potatoes and broth. Simmer until the potatoes are tender, then blend the soup until smooth. Season to taste and serve hot. It's a simple, comforting bowl of warmth that's both nourishing and affordable. Beef and bean burritos. Beef and bean burritos became a popular comfort food in American homes during the 1960s and 1970s, offering a hearty, flavorful meal without breaking the bank. The dish is simple, satisfying, and adaptable, perfect for a quick dinner after a busy day. Ground beef, refried beans, and a variety of spices come together in a soft flour tortilla to create a meal that's filling, affordable, and full of flavor. At its core, the beef and bean burrito is about taking inexpensive ingredients and turning them into something hearty and delicious. Ground beef, a go-to budget protein, is browned and seasoned with a mix of spices like cumin, chili powder, and garlic, providing a savory, flavorful base. The beans, usually refried, add creaminess and a touch of earthiness, balancing the richness of the beef. Together, the beef and beans create a filling, protein-packed filling for the tortilla. Add a bit of shredded cheese and maybe a spoonful of salsa or sour cream, and you've got a complete meal that is both comforting and simple. What made beef and bean burritos especially appealing was how easily they could be customized. You could make them with ground turkey or chicken if you wanted to swap out beef, or throw in extra veggies like peppers or onions to add flavor and nutrition. They were a fantastic way to use up leftover meat or beans, making them an ideal dish for those looking to minimize waste while maximizing flavor. Whether served for dinner or as a packed lunch, these burritos were always a hit. Beef and bean burritos also became a great option for families on a budget, as they were quick to make and easily stretched to feed more people. The tortillas could be filled generously with the beef and bean mixture, ensuring everyone got a hearty portion. They were the kind of dish you could make in bulk and freeze for later, making them as convenient as they were delicious. To make beef and bean burritos, start by browning ground beef with onions and garlic, then stir in spices like cumin and chili powder. Add in the refried beans and stir everything together. Warm your flour tortillas, then spoon the beef and bean mixture onto each one. Top with cheese, roll them up tightly, and serve with salsa or sour cream for extra flavor. It's a simple, satisfying meal that brings comfort and flavor in every bite. Chicken and dumplings. Chicken and dumplings is a classic comfort food that has been a favorite for generations, offering warmth and nourishment on chilly days. Originating in the U.S. during the Great Depression, this dish became popular for its affordability and ability to stretch a small amount of chicken into a meal that could feed a family. The dish combines tender chicken, flavorful vegetables like carrots and celery, and a rich broth with fluffy dumplings dropped in to cook right in the pot, soaking up all the savory goodness. The beauty of chicken and dumplings lies in its simplicity. It's made with inexpensive cuts of chicken, like thighs or drumsticks, and basic pantry ingredients for the dumplings. The result is a filling one-pot meal that's easy to prepare and full of comforting flavors. Whether served on a cold day or enjoyed as leftovers, chicken and dumplings continues to bring people together around the dinner table. It's a timeless dish that's just as satisfying now as it was back then. As we've seen, these 30 budget-friendly dishes are more than just meals. They're a window into history, a reminder of the creativity and resourcefulness of home cooks who found ways to make do with what they had. From hearty casseroles to comforting soups and classic one-pot wonders, each dish tells a story of making the most out of simple ingredients, often with a little help from the pantry. These recipes not only filled bellies but also brought families together, offering both nourishment and a sense of warmth. While the world may have changed, the charm of these nostalgic dishes remains timeless. They continue to offer comfort, satisfaction, and a taste of simpler times. So, next time you're looking for something hearty, inexpensive, and full of flavor, why not try one of these classic meals? With just a little creativity and a few humble ingredients, you can bring the past into the present and create new memories with those you love. Happy cooking!